Good morning. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to services this Sunday at Bay Area Unitarian Universalist Church in Webster, Texas. I'm David Throop. Our settled minister, Reverend Katie McQuaig Lucas, will be back next week, but this week I'm filling in. I'm a 30-year member of this congregation. My wife Kathy and I have raised 4 children in this congregation, and as a spiritual practice, I sometimes do lay preaching, and this morning is one of those mornings. So welcome here. Claire will get the chalice lit.
Andrea Bryant, a new member, will light our chalice today. Thank you, Andrea. You can do it. Joy and grief, health and sickness, light and darkness, peace and anger, life and death, wholeness and brokenness. We each bring all of these here to the sanctuary of unity in diversity for this 1 hour of this one day, and we pour them out, commingling the oil of our lives to become the flame of this chalice, the symbol of our shared living faith. The words of Paul Stephan Dodenhoff. Thank you again, Andrea. Please rise in body and spirit, and join me in singing our opening song, number 347, Gather the Spirit, in the gray hymnal.
Gather the Spirit, harvest the power. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind. Cease for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, a chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
Y'all sound good. This church is a place of freedom and of commitment. Here, we do not define our relationship to one another by a specific shared set of beliefs, but rather by the promises we make to walk together in our quest for understanding, inspiration, and goodness. Our covenant is an expression of whom and what we hope to become as we share hope and love and truth in one another. Please join me in saying our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with one another.
We next will do a responsive reading from your gray hymnal, number 558, For Everything a Season, taken from the book of Ecclesiastes. I will read the regular type and ask you to join in the italics. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down, a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to tear, and a time to sow. A time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, Jeff Coletta has a musical message for us.
Yes. Out of the ruins and rubble, out of the smoke, out of our night of trouble, can we see a ray of hope? One pale thin ray reaching for the day. We can build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city, not a city of angels. We can build a city of man. We may not reach the ending, but we can start. Slowly but surely mending, brick by brick, heart by heart. Now, maybe now, we'll start learning how we can build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city, not a city of angels. We can build a city of man. When your trust is all but shattered, when your faith is all but killed, you can reach up bitter and battered, and you can slowly start to build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a city, beautiful city. We can finally a city of man.
Good morning. Our story for all ages today is A Lamp in Every Corner, the main selection from the Unitarian Universalist storybook, A Lamp in Every Corner. Many years ago in the land of Transylvania, in a mountain valley watered by quick rushing streams and shadowed by great forests of beech trees, there was a village of small wooden houses with dark shingled roofs. The people in the village were of the Unitarian religion, and they wanted a church of their own. A church set on the hillside, they decided, looking down on the village like a mother looks down on her children. So all the people of the village labored long and hard to build themselves a church. The stonemasons hammered sharp chisels to cut great blocks of gray stone. They set the stone into stout and sturdy walls. The glaziers made tiny glass panes and fitted them neatly into the windows with leaded lines. The foresters sawed tall beech trees into enormous beams. A bell was brought from a faraway city and hoisted by ropes with a heave and a hoe to the top of the tower. And the smiths hammered black iron into tall lampstands and hammered thin bronze into shining oil lamps. And finally, when the building of the church was done, the painting of the church could begin. The painters mixed bright colors, royal red, shimmering gold, and brilliant blue, and everyone in the village, old and young, women and men, boys and girls, came to decorate their church. And at the end of the day, when it was finished, when their church was finally done, all the people of the village stood back to admire it. Then they went down the hillside to their homes and their suppers, all except one little girl named Zora and her father, who stayed behind. They had brought their own bread and cheese, and they ate their food slowly, sitting on the grass on the hillside. And after they had eaten, they went back inside the church. "Oh, look, Father," Zora cried, running from picture to picture, with her footsteps echoing off the walls. "See how pretty this is?" "Yes," said her father. "But, Father, we haven't finished." "What do you mean?" "Well, there's tall iron lampstands all along the walls, but there's no lamps. The church will be dark when the people come back." "Ah, no, little one," said the father. "The light of the church comes from its people. You shall see." He rang the bell to call the people to worship, and then he took his daughter and led her back outside. The sun had set behind the mountains, and the night was coming. Yet in the darkness, tiny points of light came from many directions and moved steadily up the hill. "Each family is entrusted with a lamp, little one," her father explained. "Each family lights its own way here." "Where's our family lamp?" "Oh, well, your mother's carrying it, and she'll be here soon." The many lights moved closer together, gathering into one moving stream, all headed the same way, growing larger and brighter all the time. Zora's mother arrived bearing a burning oil lamp in her hands, and the father lifted Zora so she could set their family's lamp high in its tall iron stand. And all around the church, the other families were doing the same. All through the worship service, Zora watched the lights flicker and glow, and she watched her family's lamp most of all. When the service was over, her father lifted her high. She took the lamp from the stand, and her mother carried it home with the flame lighting the way. The lamp flame lit their house when they returned home. Zora washed her face and got ready for bed. "Mother," Zora began as she climbed into bed. "Yes, little one," her mother asked. "Father said the light of the church comes from its people." "Yes, but also the people take their light from the church." Over on the table, the bronze lamp was still burning. "And we have that light every day." "Yes, indeed," said her mother. "And even when we are not in church, even when the lamp is not lit, we carry the light of truth in our minds and the flame of love in our hearts to show us the right way to be. That light, the light from truth and love, will never go out. Never? Asked Zora. Never, said her mother. And this bronze lamp will last for many, many years. When you are grown, we will give that bronze lamp to you. And when your children are grown, you will give the lamp to them, and all of you will carry it back and forth to church every time. But there's only one lamp, Zora said. So make another, and let that light grow, and someday tell your children to make more lamps too. Good night. She kissed Zora once on the cheek. Zora closed her eyes and drifted into dreams, while her mother looked down on her sleeping child. And the years passed, and Zora grew, and that bronze lamp came into her care. She kept it polished and clean, and when the bell rang out across the valley to call the people to worship, she carried the lamp back and forth to the church. And when the time came, she made more lamps and gave them to her children, who made more lamps and gave them to their children. And so it went. And always, the light of truth and the flame of love from that Unitarian church on the hill continued to grow and show them and us the way.
Thank you, Gloria. Our keeper of the flame this morning is Ada. Please join me in saying the words printed in your order of worship. We pass this flame of religious freedom from generation to generation. There are times when life seems to set before us an endless, overwhelming feast. Our cup runneth over, our souls feel nourished, and our appetites well satisfied. There are also times when our spirits are starved, when fear, pain, and loneliness make us feel hungry in a way that is hard to fill. We take time now to honor the sorrows and the joys of this community. If you have something weighing on your heart or dancing in your soul, I invite you to come forward during the music and light a candle. If you'd like a candle brought to you, please raise your hand. David will light one final candle this morning to honor all those we know and those we don't know who are suffering today, either in body or in spirit. We hold them in our hearts.
Join me now for a prayer followed by a moment of silence. Spirit of life, Spirit of all, be present with us. Give us calm. Give us resolution. Give us hope. Touch those who are feeling broken and afraid, and give courage. Be present with us. Join with me now in song. Rise as you are able for the Spirit of Life, 123 in the gray hymnal.
This reading is titled We Are Whole, and it's by Beth Lefevre. We are whole even in the broken places, even where it hurts. We are whole even in the broken places, the places where fear impedes our full engagement with life, where self-doubt corrupts our self-love, where shame makes our faces hot and our souls cold. We are whole even in those places where perfectionism blunts the joy of full immersion into person, place, activity, where good enough does not reside except in our silent longings, where our gaps must be fast filled with substance, accomplishment, or frenzied activity, lest they gape open in disgust. We are whole where we would doubt our own goodness, richness, fullness, and depth, where we would doubt our own significance, our own profoundness. We are whole even in our fragility, even where we feel fragmented, alone, insubstantial, insufficient. We are whole even as we are in process, even as we stumble, even as we pick ourselves up again, for we are whole. We are whole.
Thank you, Claire. We are whole. We are whole even where we are broken. New Year's, this is New Year's. It promises a new beginning, certainly. I have a chance, you have a chance, all the guilt and the shame and the embarrassment and the anger and the resentment and all of that from 2023, we can leave it behind in last year, right? Start over with a 2024 with a clean sheet of paper, a blank slate, right? Yeah. No, it ain't gonna happen. Things break. Things will continue to break down. They continue to break. Promises are broken. Friendships falter. Sobriety stutters. Hope comes and goes. Communication, well, you know communication. The breaking happens because of our human hearts, and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. I make mistakes. My life is messy. Brokenness happens again and again, even in this new year. And this is true of all of the negative emotions, all of the dark thoughts that we have, but I particularly today will speak about shame. Shame is natural, it's necessary, it's a condition of being human, albeit an uncomfortable one. And it often does spiral out of control. Shame, chaining to shame, chaining to shame. And yet, it has something to teach us if we don't exceed the therapeutic dose. You are good even when you feel bad. The spirituality of this community, this BAUUC community, can redeem you from excessive, unproductive shame, while still leaving you to tell the truth about the shames you have. The Unitarian Universalist tradition teaches that we are good, that we are inherently good. We have long ago debated and rejected the doctrine of original sin. But that leaves the psychic reality that even if we are good, we feel bad, we feel evil, we feel wicked, we feel like we have transgressed, we feel ashamed. We have difficult impulses to violate our highest values. We do violate our highest values, and we experience ourselves as broken. Sometimes that's from toxic things we've been taught, but oftentimes it's just a condition of the human heart. But our tradition still teaches us that underneath, despite the brokenness, despite our lapses, we are good. As an aside, plagiarism is very much part of this week's national conversation, and I'll admit to you that I have swiped a lot of this sermon's material from the great cloud of witness, which is the internet, without attribution or citation, because the order of service has no space for footnotes or bibliography, and I feel a little ashamed to admit that, but only a therapeutic amount. Our shame involves other people. Why do you feel shame when others falsely accuse you of misconduct? Your heart rate elevates, your cheeks flush, your body temperature feels like it's rising, even though you didn't do anything wrong. So why do you feel shame? The reason is that social devaluation by others is sufficient to elicit the emotion of shame, even when there is no wrongdoing. The true trigger of shame is negative perceptions by others, not by the self. So shame is a feeling that we have in community, in relation to others. Long ago, I was a freshman at Georgia Tech, and in the fall, I went through fraternity rush. And I visited a bunch of fraternities, and one seemed to fit me, and they seemed to like me, and I came by there, and I talked, and I got to be friends with some of the brothers in there, and then eventually there came midnight where they took me out to a restaurant and offered me a bid to join their fraternity. And this was kind of a big deal for me as a freshman. And we went out. So we'd been together all evening, so it was like 11:30 before we headed off to the Steak and Eggs restaurant. And there were, 15 of us. And we showed up there, and there was no table for 15, but the waitress was very helpful. She even asked another party to move over so they could create a table for 15. And we were a difficult table, but she treated us really, really well. And of course, as the guy getting the bid, I didn't have to buy my own. They were buying me steak and eggs, and I had steak and eggs, and it was really good. And we were done there, and it was past midnight, and we were walking out into the parking lot, and the waitress followed us out into the parking lot and said, "Gentlemen, was everything all right? Because not one of you," and she then used a string of expletives that I'm not going to repeat from the pulpit this morning, interspersed with the words "gentlemen." "Not one of you left any tip for me, and I think I treated you pretty good." Well, the president of the fraternity, ashamed, embarrassed, walked over to her and pulled out some bills out of his wallet and kind of tossed them at her. And I felt ashamed. I didn't do anything wrong, but I felt ashamed. I was, at that time, supporting myself as a busboy, and I lived on tips. I knew just how terrible it would be to have your biggest party of the evening stiff you. And she had been good to us. She'd been extraordinarily good to us. But why did I feel ashamed? Why did I feel ashamed? Because I was part of that group, and the misbehavior of the group reflected on me. And this woman had called us out on our misbehavior. And I was part of that group. And so even though I hadn't done anything wrong, I felt ashamed. And because I felt so ashamed, I turned down the bid. I did not join the fraternity. Now, there was a usefulness to that shame, the shame that I felt that evening. To redeem myself from that shame, I absented myself from a group that apparently was not the right group for me. I made different choices. And not joining a frat is something that trickles down the years. I'm a different man today because I made that decision that night. Our shame, at best, can goad us. Now, when I tell that story, there's still a twinge of shame, but I tell you, I haven't gone to sleep worrying about that shame for many, many years. It's far in the past. But we can overdo our shame and become trapped in cycles of shame. We can become ashamed of being ashamed because the world tells us we're not supposed to be ashamed. So we note that we're feeling guilty and we feel ashamed of that, and then we note that we're feeling ashamed and we feel embarrassed for that. And then we note that we're feeling embarrassed, and then we feel guilty for that, and it goes around and around. Shame, guilt, and regret, each of these have their place, but only in therapeutic doses. And I'm here to talk to you about therapeutic doses. Shame warns us of injury to our reputation, and the world will tell you, the world in the form of your friends, in the form of your relatives, the world in things that you read in the internet, the world in terms of things that you read in the Sunday supplement section, the world in terms of fortune cookies that you get with your Chinese meal, all tell you that you're not supposed to feel shame. But I'm telling you, let yourself feel it in therapeutic doses. The world will tell you that you shouldn't care what other people think. But I care what other people think. I cared what that waitress thought. You should care what other people think. To be human is to worry about your reputation, to hope, to take note of how well you relate to your fellows and your chosen communities. And if that community is condemning you, you should pay attention to that, even if they're wrong. Feel shame but only in therapeutic doses. But what if you are trapped in a cycle of shame that exceeds the therapeutic dose? Another time of shame for me was after I left that Georgia Tech and got my very first adult job working as a process engineer for Kaiser Aluminum. And I wasn't good at that job. The job involved clambering around an aluminum refinery. And you make aluminum by electrocuting vast amounts of molten rock. So there are these huge all-carbon anodes that are on jacks that gradually let down into a pit of molten aluminum. And huge amounts of electricity run through them. And my job was to climb up the structure of this thing with one hand grasping the railing and one hand holding a flashlight and one hand holding a ruler, and climb up and measure how much the 4 jacks had let down to make sure that it was. And I couldn't get the same number twice. Just somehow, I couldn't get the same number twice. And the job was made harder by the fact that I was 24 and could pass for 17, and I was it was my job to tell a bunch of guys in their 50s and 60s who had been doing the job for 30 years how to do their job, and they didn't necessarily want my instruction. And there came a day when my supervisor called me into his office and said, "David, you're not doing this job." He said, "You're trying as hard as any of the other young process engineers, and you're bright enough to understand it, but somehow you're just not getting the numbers right. And maybe this isn't the job for you." And I was mortified. I was ashamed, because this was my first job out of college. This was my first chance to be an adult. And I just got told that I'd failed, and that everybody in the aluminum refinery kind of knew that I was just not cut off for this job. And I was ashamed. And I went out and I looked in the want ads, and I found a place that was hiring, a consulting firm downtown in New Orleans that was hiring process engineers. And I went in there, and it looked like a perfect job, and they gave me a form to fill out to take home and come back. And I went home and started to fill out the form, and I went to bed that night and woke up the next morning and could not find the form anywhere. Looked through the whole house, it was just gone. It had somehow disappeared. And I knew that this was my chance to redeem myself, and I messed it up. It's like I can't, so I actually waited like a week looking through the apartment, trying to figure out where the form, and eventually I went down and humiliated myself and said, "I lost the form. I know that doesn't make me look like a good employee, but can you give me another copy of the form?" And they said, "Of course." And they said, "And while you're here, why don't we interview right now?" And they interviewed me, and even before I had finished filling out the form, they gave me an offer. And I walked out of the engineering building around the corner into Lafayette Park in New Orleans, where a brass band was playing John Philip Sousa, and I felt redeemed. So even in the shame of not being a good aluminum refinery engineer and not being able to keep track of my application, the shame pushed me and goaded me through to be able to enjoy that brass band. How do you get out of the cycle of shame? Even as we believe that no matter how fractured we were or are or once was, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love, the love in which we live. I'm going to repeat that. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. There is a song beloved of this community in our hymnal, a poem by the Sufi poet Rumi, many of you know it. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. But our rendition of it leaves out a critical piece. Let me read it in the older form, in the complete form. Rumi said, come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times, come, yet again come. This church is no caravan of despair. And you are welcome here, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Come again, come here. Last fall, I was driving to a men's retreat up in the hill country. And there was a complicated family situation that wasn't working at all well for me. And I pulled over somewhere west of San Antonio and into a parking lot to try and straighten out some things. And I messed it up. I had a man telling me that he never wanted to see me again, and that if he did see me again, he would call the police on me and have me kicked out. And I messed up. I was tongue-tied. I was frightened. I was sad. I was ashamed. And I drove and I was late. I was late for the men's retreat because I'd spent all that time on the phone. And I drove to BAUUC, our Unitarian camp in the hill country, to the men's retreat. And I showed up late. Dinner was over, and it was dark, and the men were all circled around a campfire. And the campfire was blazing. And Reverend Mark Scrabbits was leading, and he saw me walking in from my car. He said, David, we're having a circle with some deep sharing. And he said, are you ready to share? And I said, I am. It was too dark to even really tell who all the guys were. I knew some of them. I knew I didn't know some of them. And yet, I shared about my horrible day and the way I had messed it up and the mistakes I had made. And telling the truth about my shame to this group that I already knew was an accepting and loving group was just the thing I needed to set myself free so that it didn't keep on buzzing through my head for the whole weekend. The buzz wasn't planned, but it fits. So the goal is not to stop the shame. The goal is to cut it down to size. How do you do that? You notice it. You tell the truth about it. Don't notice what's going on in your mind, the shame that cycles and feeds itself. Just notice it and tell the truth about it. Try not to attach to it. Don't evict it. You can get off the treadmill. So the first step is have some compassion for yourself and accept what you're seeing, what you're feeling. The second step is to take the usual steps to clean up. If the shame is mixed with deserved guilt, go in there and be kind to people that you've been harsh to. Apologize for the things you've spilled. Take the usual redemptive action. But the third step, and the third step that I particularly want to commend you to this morning, is to tell your shame, your hurt, your pain, to an accepting and loving community. And if you don't have an accepting and loving community, you're sitting in one this morning. If you don't have another accepting and loving community, these people, the people in these pews and chairs, are that community. This is the place to unload the thoughts that go around and won't shut up and have exceeded the therapeutic dose. Shame is natural, it's necessary, it's a condition of being human, albeit uncomfortable. But in this new year, in this 2024, do not allow it to spiral out of control. Don't exceed the therapeutic dose, because you are good and you are whole. Even when you feel bad, even when you really are broken, you are still, in this community, you are whole. And it will accept you as whole and lift you up as whole. The spirituality of this BAUUC community can redeem you from excessive shame. In this coming 2024, people will think badly of you and you will feel shame, deserved or undeserved. Extract the morsel of wisdom from it, a therapeutic dose, spit out the rest. While communities can shame you, and communities have shamed you, communities can affirm you and relieve you of your excess shame. You are sitting this morning in such a community, the BAUUC community. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live, and that love lives here in this room, sitting in these chairs. Be present, friends. Amen.
Thank you, David. Okay. It's time for our offering. These are the words of Paul Beadle. Once upon a time, most folks used the offering plate to fulfill their pledges of financial support. Nowadays, lots of folks click on their church websites or set up automatic transfers from their checking accounts. Some still write a monthly check paying their church bill along with all the others. But passing the offering plate was never just a practical exercise. It has always been a ritual. Even if your pledge is paid up, it is worthwhile for you to bring even just $1 to drop into the plate as a ritual reminder of that form of love we call generosity. Let it be a reminder that after meeting our obligations to ourselves and our households and the communities to which we belong and are committed, we must still keep our capacity to give. The practice of giving until it is second nature and first response helps bring forth the realm of love. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Thank you, Carla and Jeff, for all the lovely music today. Please join me in blessing the offering. This gift from the abundance of my life blesses me, our ministries, and the world. So we have a lot of announcements today. We have started a new BAUUC community Facebook group. It is a place on Facebook for members and friends to chat with each other and engage about church, upcoming events, and news. Not everyone can post to our BAUUC Facebook page, but everyone can post in this new group. You can find all of the details in the weekly email blast or use the QR code on the screen to join the group. Should we wait? Let you do that? Okay. I see. Wait a second. Okay. Next one. Are you looking for an opportunity to give back to your community and make a difference in the lives of others? Or who's not? Okay. Our church is hosting a garage sale in April, and we need your help to make it a success. We are looking for volunteers to join our team and help us organize this event. Whether you have experience in event planning or not, we welcome you. This is a great opportunity to meet new people, develop new skills, and make a positive impact in our community. So why not join us and be a part of something meaningful? The meeting will be held tomorrow, Monday, January 8th at 11 a.m. in Cockrell Hall. Let's work together to make our church-wide garage sale a huge success. And note, even if you can't come to the meeting, there will be many opportunities to get involved with that garage sale, I promise. Okay. The Altar Arrangement Committee will be meeting on Thursday, January 11th at 11:30 a.m. If you're interested in volunteering to decorate our altar for a month or two during the year, please join us at the committee meeting. That sounds fun. Okay, next Sunday, January 14th at 12:30, families, parents, and children are invited to a family-style potluck lunch in Cockrell Hall. After lunch, children will play. Childcare is provided by the church, and while they enjoy the company of other kids, parents will discuss parenting issues and parenting tips. Then, on Saturday, January 20th at 10 a.m. in Cockrell Hall, come dream and dream with us. Come dream a dream with us. We will be hosting a facilitated worship to envision our universe for January 2030. This is a way of imagining what our hopes and dreams are for BAUUC's future, not just this coming year, but years into the future. This sounds very interesting to me. It is a fun and creative process, and we will provide lunch. We need help from each of you to make this work, longtime members and newer members, both older and younger members, and visitors too. Lunch will be provided, as we said, so please RSVP to president@bauuc.org so we will know how many to expect for lunch. Then, after today's service, be sure to join us for coffee and fellowship in Cockrell Hall. We look forward to gathering in fellowship. And if you're not on our email list, you can sign up on our website at BAUUC.org, or you can just sign the visitor card back there. We send out an email of BAUUC news and events every Tuesday that contains these and many other activities that are happening in our church. Now, please rise in body or spirit and join us in our closing song, The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time, number 350 in the gray hymnal.
Thank you for being here. We are a community knit together in that mysterious love, that indescribable love, that surprising love. Cleave to it in this year. Let it be a balm for the hurts that carry over from 2023, no matter how much we try to leave them behind. Let that love, the love of this community, be a balm for all of us. Amen.